Hello, world and Gator Nation. It's your boy, P.Y. Patrick Young, the host of The Young and the Rowdies, where we give you everything Florida Gator basketball and more. It has been an honor, a pleasure to be doing this podcast, especially in the comfort of my own home. Back in Jacksonville, Florida, Duval, you know how we do. Thank you guys so much for the reviews, the follows, the subscribers, and the shares. Want to remind you to please subscribe to the Field of 68 Media Network on YouTube. It helps us so much as we're trying to expand this horizon of college basketball to the world. Thank you guys so much for the love. Thank you for the support. Continue to just take care of yourselves in this crazy time. I'm thankful to be able to bring you some distraction from the craziness and to connect with some real people that have done some great things in the world through the University of Florida. And without further ado, our next guest is my brother. He was a senior when I was a freshman. I'm so excited for his story and what he has to share with you. It was an awesome show. I cannot wait for you guys to hear it. Here's my good friend, Vernon Macklin. All right, without further ado, it is my great pleasure and honor to welcome my brother, Vernon Macklin. Vern, you're a long way from Portsmouth, Virginia. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Same grind, different time zone, man. I'm out here in South Korea now for this season, so it's cool. Just a long ways from home.
In South Korea, I know we spoke a little bit before. You said you had a 14-day quarantine when you got there.
Yeah, that joint was brutal. Tough, definitely tough. But I lost weight and everything in that joint.
What was it like? What'd you do during that time just to stay sane?
I started off like trying to read. I had a few books I was reading. The food for me was the toughest thing, and I also had to work out. So, but the way the room was set up, it was a government quarantine, so it was just like a smaller room. I had to make my own space to work out because I couldn't just sit there. So working out was like a little bit tough mentally, and just trying to find something to do for 15 days. Like it felt longer than it was.
What books did you try to read during that time? Pick up.
Think and Grow Rich, and
Okay.
As a Man Thinketh. Yeah,
Okay. I see my dog getting that wisdom in.
got to, man.
I think when I was in Israel, I tested positive. Well, I never tested positive for COVID, but I had the symptoms, and I had to quarantine for what seemed like 21 days, just staying in the house in the crib. I at least had a balcony, so I could like go outside and sit on the balcony. They brought me a spin bike. But other than that, man, I was in the house, man. I read Atomic Habits by James Clear, and it just talked about how just being intentional with our routine and that it's not about necessarily self-discipline, but creating habits around what you already do so you can just fall in line with those things. And that's kind of what I did. Was able to read a little bit more, meditate some, instead of just because it's easy to just sit there and play video games all day. Like that's that's the easy default. And I ain't gonna say I didn't have my days, of course, because I mean you in the house or ain't doing nothing. Um, so let's take it back, Vern. So you were a top recruited guy coming out of high school. Well, let's start from the beginning. Like, what was your upbringing like when it came to basketball? Like, how did you determine that's what you loved and what the path that you wanted to pursue?
Honestly, for me, it like I never, being honest, like I never thought that I was good at basketball. You know what I mean? Coming up, I didn't like it. I just wanted to be with my friends in the neighborhood. But Ben Finney, Dorian Finney's big brother, and his mom, they took a liking to me as a young age and used to always call my grandma's house and, ask me to come to, tournaments and play. And I used to always, try to lie and give them the runaround. And because I didn't like it, I mean, I thought it was like, I don't know. I just wanted to be out in the streets, honestly, but it was a bad move. And, as close as me and Ben got and his mother, she just started explaining to me, like, just try it and try it. And then when I first started trying it, I wasn't good at it. But, Ben was really good at it. But he never made me feel uncomfortable. When he helped me feel more comfortable about playing the game, I was like, all right, cool. So the more and more I spent at their house and went to practice, it started carrying over, and I started getting really good at it. And AAU teams in a different area, Boo Williams noticed both of us and had us go over and travel with them. So that's when it really started making sense to me. At first, it really didn't make sense. I just thought I was doing it for, like PRHA, in the neighborhood. But we ended up getting looked at by big AAU teams, and then we went from there. So I started taking it serious.
When did you hit that growth spurt? Because you have a 6'9", 6'10" with a 7'4" wingspan. When did you hit a spurt where you really stood out high school level?
It was middle school. I was
middle
in
school.
So I started playing summer of going to the 7th grade. And by the 8th grade, I was already they put me in the newspaper by the first time I started playing. So I was 6'7" at the time. I was tall and lanky, but I was really, really skinny. So that was my growth spurt time, by middle school. Then in high school, I had another one, but so I was tall in the 8th grade, taller than all my teachers, everybody in school.
How tall did you say you were in middle school?
6'6", bro. I was 6'6" in middle school. I was taller than everybody.
Bro, I think I was in 8th grade. I think I was barely 6'2". I think I hit 5 to 6 inches from 8th to 9th grade or something like that. But I was so lanky and uncoordinated. I mean, baseball was my first sport. That's all I really, really knew growing up, and that's what I really love. But dang, bro, so when did you really hit that click, that switch where you just became that top player that everyone saw, being a number 12 coming out of your class, being a McDonald's All-American, Parade American? When was that point where you finally got that confidence of I love this game, I'm really good at it, I see myself emulated in this person? When was that moment for you? Because I feel as though nobody just you don't just fall into that level.
Mine was, I would say, I don't know why. In the 8th grade, they had me and a guy named Derek Character. They had me rated number 1. We was going back and forth, but I didn't understand why. Maybe because I was running, but I still didn't think I was good. And then maybe I would say sophomore year or end of the summer of freshman year, going to my sophomore year, I went to Nike camp. And when I got there, it was guys who I was hearing about, who I started seeing, like LaMarcus Aldridge, Rudy Gay, those guys. And they kind of knew who I was as a young guy, you know what I mean? And from that point, when I was at Nike camp amongst all of those upperclassmen, and Kevin Durant was coming up at the time, and Greg Oden, and when people was comparing me to these guys who I thought was significantly way better than me at the time, they were still saying I was a good player as well. So around that time, I started believing all right, cool. If everybody saying I didn't have an internet at the time, I didn't have no phone, so I didn't know anything. So when I went around, people would know who I was, and I was like, how you know me? Oh, you on the internet? But I didn't know, you know what I mean? I'm
right.
I don't know, you know what I mean? So when that started happening, and then one day me and KD had a conversation, and we was playing NBA Live at the time in Nike camp in a room. And he was like, yeah, man, they got you ranked higher than me, but he took it personal. At the time he should have, but I still didn't understand. So from that time, I knew who he was from just Jared Jack and our counselors at the time. Nike camp was all over thriving about KD. And when I seen him, I was like, oh, I see why. This guy's amazing. But he was still looking at me like, oh, you can play. So from that point on, I started saying, all right, cool. I feel like if these guys look at me like that, I need to start looking at myself like I can really do this. And that's when it started kind of changing for me. Around sophomore year.
Was there any NBA player that you kind of strove to look to mold your game towards, or somebody for me, and not that I was, but like him, but Tim Duncan was always my favorite guy growing up. And just whenever we would play pickup, I always just try to imagine being like Tim Duncan. Was there ever a guy like that you were like, if one day I make it to the NBA, I want to play like this guy?
That's another thing, was probably one of my biggest faults as well. At that time, I was not watching basketball. I would literally, when I was done playing basketball, I would put my bags down and go outside. So I started just taking what everybody else was saying. People would say, KG, but I didn't play anything like Kevin Garnett. You know what I mean? We looked alike, our resemblance, but after a while, my AAU coach, Boo Williams, started telling me, you can be like Alonzo Mourning. And then, around that time, I started realizing, hey, Alonzo from Chesapeake, Virginia, he went to Georgetown. I kind of wanted to go to Georgetown. Everybody was kind of forcing me towards Georgetown. So around that time, I would say Zoe was like the guy who I started taking off of. But everybody else was comparing me to guys who I didn't even really watch. You know what I mean? So I didn't know. So I would say Alonzo was probably like the guy who I was like, okay, cool. I can be like Zoe. You know what I mean? Because I didn't have no skill set. I was like blocking shots and running the floor and rebounding.
Hey, shoot, you can do that at a high level these days. That gets you paid. Uh, but I wanted to ask you, going into that decision, making that decision from high school to college, the NBA hadn't yet implemented the 19-year-old rule. If the NBA didn't implement that rule, do you think you would have made the decision and taken that jump?
Yeah, for sure. I never forget the day it actually happened. We was at NBA camp in Richmond, and in my mind, people was Georgetown, and honestly, I wasn't really a big fan of the whole going to school for that long and all that. So I didn't tell them about it, but I just wanted to make the jump and see how it went. You know what I mean? And at the time, me and KD got close, and a few other guys, and they made that rule when we was at NBA camp, and that I didn't show it then, but that like broke my heart. I was like, man, like I gotta go to school now, even though I don't think I would have been ready. I just was not ready to go to college. Like I was just trying to, and I was in a tough situation financially. I wanted to get some, some funds
Right.
and all that. So I was kind of thinking ahead, but when that rule happened, it broke me. Like it really did break me, so I would have made the jump. I wouldn't have went to school, honestly.
It's funny, like in no other profession, I would say, would somebody question a person that had an opportunity to go straight into making money, even if they weren't necessarily ready yet, because you can still go through a training period. It's only when it comes to professional sports where people are like, oh no, the kid needs to do this and they need to do that. Like if you can make life-changing money for your family right now, like, you can go back and pay for that education, and you can set and put a lot of things in place with that. So you decided to go to Georgetown. What you were just mentioning that you felt as though the voices were pushing you towards that direction. What was the recruiting process like? What ultimately came into making that decision that got you going into Georgetown 06 to 08?
Honestly, without pinpoint any names or anything, but I would say I didn't have a fair chance of actually weighing my options. Honestly, I like Florida was one of the schools I wanted to go to. UNC was who I wanted to go to. And Ohio State was on my list that I wanted to go to, but I never took a visit to any one of those schools. You know what I mean? It was just AI went to Georgetown. He from 757. He played for Boo Williams, Alonzo, and for me, it was just like I was almost said what I was told. Oh man, Georgetown produced good big man. Now, granted, I learned a lot from Georgetown when I got there, but it wasn't a situation where I took my visits and I made a choice. I went to Georgetown to visit, and that was it. Like what I mean, it was committed to Georgetown. So and I went in there. So and I didn't have any at the time, like I didn't have, my parents, was, in different situations. I didn't have any guidance as far as
Yeah.
information on colleges, you know what I mean? At the time, and I honestly believe, my best friend's mother, she, didn't want to force anything. So she let me handle it as well. You know what I mean? And when I went to Hargrave, my coach was just like, I don't know if Georgetown's the place for you. You play different. But at the time, as I said, I wasn't watching basketball. So I didn't know Georgetown had Princeton offense. I wasn't watching them. I just was, okay, I'm going to go to Georgetown. My game would transfer to whatever it is. That's how basketball worked. Until I had a guy tell me in the grocery store one night, like, yo, Mac, I've been watching you since your freshman year of high school. Like, Princeton, that's what he said. I was like, nah, I'm going to Georgetown. He's like, no, nah, that's the Princeton offense. I'm like, what's that? So my first time watching Georgetown play, like nobody notices, when Mo Spates, we was at Hargrave together. And me and Mo used to make jokes back and forth, and they played them in the Final Four, Georgetown and Florida. And when I watched Georgetown play, I was like, why are they walking the ball to the floor? And it blowed me. Like at that point, I was like, oh man, like I run. And I was already committed and signed. So that's how it was. I went there just like that.
How was your adjustment? I mean, I can only imagine at that time, you still have the optimism of like, okay, I can fit and mold my game to still find a way to make it work. You know, I'm here just a temporary stop because I kind of have to be. You know, what was that transition like when you first got there to Georgetown?
Um, it was tough. The guys like Dewan Summers helped me. Jeff Green, Roy Hibbert, those guys was able to like, Patrick Ewing Jr. Those guys was able to like help me like mentally explain things to me because those guys was actually like watching the game, playing the game, knew what they was getting into. But I was just a kid who just played it. I didn't watch it. So for me, the adjustment was extremely tough, man. Like I would get the rebound, pass it, just run, and everybody else is like walking it up. I'm like, what I mean? So for me, I really couldn't get a grasp on it. Like I didn't at all. Like I didn't understand it. I started picking the offense up, but I didn't understand within that, after the offense, I didn't understand any of that stuff.
Yeah, I think that kind of offense is just so outdated in the sense of since we have so much better understanding of basketball now, it comes down to putting pressure on the defense. It's all about putting pressure on the defense, all about making them have to rotate and creating some type of disadvantage. And if you're not putting conditioning into the game, especially when it comes down to the last 5 or 6 minutes of pushing the ball up and down the court, I mean, you're gonna be facing a team like the score is gonna be low, but both teams are gonna be fresh. Both teams pretty much are gonna be fresh, and that's what I did enjoy about playing with Coach D, that he always had us going up and down. But a lot of people were probably surprised by your decision of wanting to transfer after 2 years. You just knew at that time that it wasn't the right fit for you. Instead of trying to force a square peg into a circle, that it was time for you to go into a program that fits you and suited your style of play. So what came into the decision of wanting to go to UF of the other options you had?
Mo, me and Mo got to spend Mo Space got to spend our senior year together, Hargrave, and I just saw the difference in his body. I saw the difference in his mentality, the difference in his game. He always had the game, you know what I mean, his soft touch and all that. And when I started watching him, I wanted to transfer after my freshman year, like to go there right away. But at the time, I just was like, I'm gonna see if I can stick this out. I made some good friends at Georgetown. I feel like things was gonna change. Jeff Green got drafted. I felt like I would have had a chance to get in and play. But from there, and then Coach D, when I had literally opened up to say I was going to transfer, Coach D came, we met, and I think it was somewhere in DC, like in a hotel or something, like him, Coach Hewitt from, I think he was at Clemson, I forgot his name. So we had met, and also Memphis was on my list. But when Coach D came down, and when we talked, it was just, we spoke when I was in high school, and his was just so real. Like, you get out here, you're going to work hard, you're going to play, and you're going to determine what happened. You know what I mean? And the way he came to me, it was just too real. And I haven't had that. And no disrespect to anyone at Georgetown, but my coaching experience there wasn't real as Coach Donovan. Like Coach D was just letting me know everything. It wasn't no sugarcoating. And the way he came to me, I was like, all right, and from Mo, and then I went on a visit to Florida, and me and Chandler hit it off, and it was like, all right, like, this is the place where I want to be at for sure, And I wanted to go there out of high school, honestly.
Well, Gator fans, the ones that are listening, definitely appreciate it. Seeing the big 3-2 in Gainesville, seeing you do your thing down there. So you come into that transfer year, that transfer portal. You decide to go to UF. What was your mentality going into, because your mentality changes because you're doing everything that the basketball team is doing. You're preparing for games, you're practicing, you're doing the classwork, the weight training, but you're not playing. What was your mindset going into that year of sitting out, of how you're going to approach it and prepare for the
I
next
just
season?
wanted to do things the right way. I felt like at Georgetown, when things didn't go right with basketball, I started letting it take a part of who I was. You know what I mean? Like, I was getting in a little small trouble on campus, doing things I wasn't supposed to do, because I was just so disappointed in what I was putting out in basketball and what was not happening in basketball. So with that being said, when I got to Florida, and I knew I couldn't play. I had to practice, work hard. It was still tough for me. But Coach D, I used to go in there and meet with him and talk in his office, and he was like, Vern, like, you're like an emotional roller coaster right now, and that's how I was. Like, some days I was up, some days I was down, but the times I was down, I was really down. And then I couldn't go out there and play to help pick myself up. So I would always stay down when the team was about to leave, and I had to stay there and work out. But I just took it as a time to get better. You know what I mean? That's what I wanted to do. Like, I felt like I learned to jump hook at Georgetown. So when I got to Florida, I was like, oh, in the sit out year, I'm gonna just literally come in here, medicine ball, and just get in a whole bunch of jump and just get stronger at what I'm doing. And that's this thing that helped me stay sane and playing against and practicing against guys, and just staying mentally ready for that season to come back so I can actually play. So I wanted to be prepared to play on the court from my game and also in the classroom. So that's why I picked up on that whole sit out year. I matured a lot.
Is there any advice that now you would give yourself before transferring, or like maybe in that transfer year you would tell yourself, like looking back now, one line of advice you would give yourself,
Um,
or however
I
many
would
lines?
I would say probably just live in the moment. I didn't do a good job of living in the moment. I was just so like, I want to get out of it. Because I was, financially, I wanted to help my family. I wanted to get
Yeah.
it. But I was always like, man, what I got to do to get out of here? What I got to do to get out of here? As opposed to just like living in the moment right then and there and taking advantage of that the right way. So I would say living in the moment would probably be the best thing I would have did better.
Do you think that that pressure of I mean, of course you see the opportunity and you want to take care of your family, but does that kind of not say it's not, because it's not a burden, it's a privilege, it's an opportunity to be able to do that, but does it take away from you, just being a kid, because you're still 19, 20, 21 years old, and still in college having the experience of your lifetime, because we look back, we'll never, basketball, once we left college, basketball is not the same.
Mm.
So would you say, like, yeah, that it took away from you, still being a kid and enjoying the moment?
I think I think I let it take away from me. Like, I know guys who didn't, you know what I mean? It was like, all right, I'm gonna get there when I get there. But everybody's situation was different. But I also know
Right.
guys who were in bad situations as well, and they still lived in the moment. So I would say me having the expectations of going out of high school, that didn't work, and then going to a college, that didn't work. Now going to another college, so I was just like, man, I'm thinking like the hourglass is just getting, smaller and smaller for me. Like, it's time for me to do something. So I let it get even worse than what it was all in my head, for real, for real. The money wasn't going anywhere. My family
Yeah.
wasn't getting worse, worse, worse. It was just
Right.
me just pressuring myself. Like, I would did things differently with that.
Okay, so Vern, let's transition a little bit. Do you remember well, I'll ask you first, what's one of your favorite memories as a Gator, or something that just stands out to you?
It's so many, man. But I would say for my senior year, man, like my senior year, even though we lost in the Elite Eight, we had a great year. We won the SEC that year. And then just from honestly, like guys like you, Scottie, just watching you guys, you know what I mean, how you guys came in. And I was once told at Georgetown that I could never be a leader. I could never be a captain because of the person I was. But when you, Scottie, how you guys came in there and you guys looked up to me and you guys was like taking my word and understanding where I was coming from, and I started seeing you guys. So I would say that part for me was like, all right, cool, man. These guys made me seem like I was a bad guy, but now I got some younger guys coming in, and I helped them out, and then I started seeing the greatness that you guys put on the floor. So I would say literally that last game for me, and also watching how you guys grew. So it was a lot of them, you know what I mean? Because I feel like the words and the things I did help guys like, you know what I mean, you and Scottie, from me being in college with you guys. So I would say it's a few. I missed too many to put my finger on. I enjoyed it all.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the head. I think looking back in my freshman year, if Scottie, Will, Casey, and I, and Cody, we were so thankful that you took the initiative to, like, being in our lives. Like, whenever we go on road trips or when we're in the tournament, you would like intentionally hang out with us and like clown with. I mean, even if you was picking on us, it was still great. I mean, just I mean, I told you earlier, you helped me to develop my hook shot and develop my game and just start to learn the game. Because me coming into Florida, I was very similar situation. Top rated recruit, unfair comparisons to another NBA player. It's like I'm just a kid. Like, I mean, I can run, I can jump, I can block shots, I can do all that, but my skill work wasn't there. And I just remember coming into practice and I had no work in the post. I was
Yeah,
trying
Dad used to be
I
up there like, man, get him a hook shot.
man, I was trying to pump fake and pivot. Like I remember like the first position I ever had, I pump fake and pivoted you like 6 times, and like you didn't move one time, and it's like, yo, like what are you doing? You gotta learn to just trust your shot and just do something. Like, and then I remember just slowly developing, starting to be able to practice and compete, and seeing where I fit in with practice. But I would say some of my favorite memories that we had has to be the charge drill.
Yo.
The charge drill got to be one of my favorites.
Everybody alive. Scared, boy.
I remember the day, because I had Will on the show and we talked about it. It was one day because I was like, for the people that don't understand the charge drill, there's one man standing in the middle, and he's the one that's taking the charge. He's right the little arc in the free throw in the paint. He's standing around there. There's a guy on the block, the other block, and one at the free throw line. And this man's job is to take a charge from all three offenders, or whatever you should say. And after doing this a few times, I kind of started feeling bad because I was hitting guys too hard.
Bro, I was too old for that, bro.
And one day, I was trying to hide, and Coach Donovan was like, "Big Pat, where you at?" So I had to get in the middle. It was, I think, Alex, Vernon, and Chandler were on the outside, and I got killed. Vern just dropped the ball and ran through me. Great way to start practice.
Bro. I remember that joint, boy.
What? So going into your junior year, or I should say your first year with the Gators, do you remember your moment where you finally got to put that jersey on again and playing the O-Dome? Just finally, a year of preparation and transferring, and just so much emotional roller coaster, like you said, and finally just like, I'm here. It's my time.
Yeah, my coach Lanier had to help me out. My first game was horrible. I was just so super excited. When they called my name, I hopped off the bench yelling and screaming, and I think I scored like 5 points. I was just super nervous. It was all bad. But I had to, when I got down to it and realized, all right, like I'm here, like I'm actually playing now. I think it was, I don't know if it was South Alabama. It was somebody, I don't remember. And I kind of started getting into myself then. But it was a lot that goes on to, actually putting on the jersey and representing, Florida Gators, and playing for Coach Donovan, just in general playing for the Rowdy Raps. It was a lot, it was great things, but I was just getting into it, you know what I mean? So when I actually got settled and understood, like it was a privilege and not something I'm like, got to stress to do, because I was ready to play, I think it went smooth. So I can't remember the exact game, but when that worked, I was just in love. I was loving it, man. Like my teammates showed great love for me, and Coach D had always had my back, and the managers and everybody and fans. So it was great, man, when I was able to play my junior year.
Do you remember any one of your favorite games that you played, or a favorite moment? I mean, yeah, it's funny. I watched that game of us playing BYU. I don't know where I was at, but I decided just to watch the highlight, or just I watched the whole game, and it was just crazy, man. That was such a special year. And man, we should have had Butler, but the better team, the better team came out on top that day. But yeah, is there any other specific game you remember?
Yeah, I got it. My game. Now everything else that happened was great, but my biggest game for me that felt like was amazing. We played American. I think it was
Oh yeah,
American
I remember
College.
that. I remember that game. Yep.
My assistant coach from Georgetown was now the head coach of there, Coach Burke. And he was the coach at Georgetown that basically sat with me and told me that it's better for me to just get a degree from Georgetown, even if basketball, a bunch of things that I kind of didn't want to hear at the time. And when I transferred, and when he was the coach, I didn't know that. You know, I started finding out he was the coach of American. And then once he came out for warm-ups and I was warming up and we actually had a conversation, like every bone in my body was like, I don't want to miss a shot. Like, I'm gonna play as hard as I can. And I told Coach Don, like, Coach D, like, this game means a lot to me. Like, and he said, you know what I mean, to the team. And we came out and he kept, feeding me the ball in the post, and I, was scoring. So for me, it was, that was the selfish point that I had, because I felt like everything this coach told me at Georgetown, like, I want to show him like differently. Like, and I got a coach that believes in me, teammates. Well, my teammates at Georgetown believe me well, but I got a coach that believed in me. And I want to go out there and show, because this coach was the head assistant coach at Georgetown. So that game for me was like everything. I think I missed like one shot and I had 20. I just wanted to score every single time against this dude. And I looked over him like every time. Like I did not like the things he had to say about me when I left. So that game was probably like the one for me, honestly.
With you have two boys, correct?
Yes.
Are they hopefully gonna be Gators one day?
Gotta be Gators. Gotta be Gators. No Florida State, no my Gators. They all gotta be Gators.
Have you been able to keep up with the current state of the program, and have you gotten a chance to meet Coach White yet?
Yes, I went down there those last year, and one more year after that, I believe, and checked them out. I live like an hour and 45, but for me being overseas for so long, when I come back home, I just shut it down. But I'm gonna start going there a little bit more. But yeah, I've had a chance. We actually sat and met and talked on everything when Doe was there. More and more conversations.
So, Vern, you left Florida after winning the SEC and going to the Elite Eight, the 2010 and 11 season. You get drafted 52nd overall to the Pistons. What did that moment feel like with everything that had happened before that, from high school to the transferring to Georgetown in Florida? What did that moment feel like, finally, getting your name called?
It was, I want to say this the right way, not the wrong way. It was a gift, but it was like, for me, it was like, I once again didn't live in the moment. I felt like, oh man, I'm here finally. And that was the wrong thing for me to do. I should have just been like, all right, now it's time for me to put the work in. But I felt like, man, I done been through all of that. And
Right.
now I got my name called, and then it just so happened I get drafted into the NBA lockout. But it was a blessing for me, for my family, for the body of work I put in. But once again, I still think I could have done things differently to stick and stay in the league. But just the whole thought of getting there, when guys told me, when coaches, or when I thought that I wasn't going to get there, and I was able to get drafted and get my degree at the same time, things like that. So that was just, it was a blessing, man. I would say it's a blessing.
Did you feel as though when you got there that it was just like starting over again, in a sense?
Yeah, that's how I was supposed to look at it. But I think I looked at it like, I'm here. Like, instead of saying like, all right, you here, now what? I was looking at it like, all right, man, I'm here. Like, what's the chance of me not being here no more? And then,
Right.
That's how fast it happened. You know what I mean? So if I did things differently in that point, I think things would have went differently. But,
What was your rookie year experience like? I know you had Ben Wallace was one of your veterans on the team at the time, which had, an awesome guy to look up to. What was it like being a rookie under such a presence like as him?
Man, it was amazing. It was to the point where, Ben was 37, 36, 37 at the time. And this guy would be, if not first, second guy at the gym. Him and Damian Wilkins used to get to the gym early. Like, those are the older guys. And, I'm still in the mindset of, all right, practice started 12, I get here at 11, it's still an hour before, it's still cool. Like, those guys was there dripping in sweat, already worked out like an hour and a half before the time I got there, got a lift in, getting some little treatment in. Like it was, and Ben was one of those guys that he used to make little, you know, he was serious, but he'd make a little joke because, you know, he'd be like, hey, young fella, I don't supposed to keep beating you here. Like, you know what I mean? And that's how he was. Like, you know what I mean? He knew he wasn't going to play a lot of minutes, but for him, like his whole regiment of the league, that's how he's been. You know, he get in there, he get his weights in. Even though he's not a shooter, he up there getting out shots, he working out. Like, you know, he was a guy who I was like, man, this guy really is a professional. You know what I mean? Like, this is how you're supposed to do it. So that was great with that.
How did that, you know, watching him, how did that, or just the other guys that you're around, help you get a new perspective on how you need to carry yourself, you know, moving forward for the rest of your professional career?
Honestly, until, man, like I was still mentally, like I was still had a lot of stuff I was thinking about, as opposed to, like I said, living in the moment. So now that's something I've been doing overseas for the last few years of my career, you know, like getting there early, working out. But even when I was there and I was watching these guys do it, I'm like, man, like, what y'all doing? Why y'all getting here so early? Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
So for me, I still wasn't living in that moment. Like I still was like, yo, these guys is here 2 hours before, staying an hour out. I'm trying to get back to my nice spot. So that's the thing. That's the thing that was kind of that was my other problem as well. But if I believe if I'd done that then, I would have stayed. But that was what it was. But for my overseas career, that's been a reason why I've been able to, you know, sustain nice jobs, play well, take care of my body, because at that time I wasn't doing that, but I was watching these guys do it. Treatment when they don't have to, working out when they don't have to. So now that's something I do. You know what I mean? Been doing this the last almost 8-9 years, man. Like, you know, since that time.
A lot of people that haven't seen you physically in a while might not recognize that you've gotten so much slimmer. You know, what are you weighing? You know, what you weighed around 245, 250 in college. You know, what are you weighing right now?
225, 230.
How?
I had for me, like, once again, I was my 245, like I even got in Japan, I was up to 270. I got bad, it was bad weight. You know what I mean? So I wasn't jumping how I was supposed to jump as I started getting older. So when I came home and this whole pandemic happened, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get more leaner. I'm gonna eat right. I started my conditioning. I work out. I like to run. We'll get some miles in. So that started, when I started doing that, I started feeling better and I started moving better and moving lighter. So that's why I decided to shed some few pounds. But like now I'm starting to put the weight back on now, you know, from actually, you know, lifting more and being during season. But I got all the way down to 220, bro.
Was that your goal to get down that low, just to kind of see how you would feel?
I did it not knowing. Like I just stepped on the scale, like, man, like 220. I kind of scared me a little bit. So it wasn't really a goal. It was just like, I just want to be whatever it takes for me to be in shape and stop eating late at night, eating bad food, snacks, you know what I mean, drinking juices. So I just stuck to like water. I was drinking just water. It was like all water for months on end, you know what I mean? So that's what helped.
What did you do to learn more about your health? And because this kind of stuff is, I think college, they do a great job of facilitating and giving you all these things, but the educational route and understanding and knowing like what I need to do for my body and what foods affect inflammation and when I need to eat and like, what did you do to learn all that stuff?
I would say I did a little bit of like just research. Some guys was doing the whole vegan. I didn't go, you know, that far. But like you said, information, like it was certain things that just like had my knee feeling like, you know what I mean? Like I'm putting so much pressure on my knee. So when I started looking into that, I was like, all right, cool. You know, I stayed off the sugar like that. You know what I mean? So when I started realizing I'm not eating all this sugar, I'm not doing all this late night eating or all this heavy meats, like it really started helping me, you know, and as honest as a joke, but I'm serious. Like my first time having a six pack was during the pandemic. Like, look, I never had, you see me at college, like I never, you know, I used to joke about you was cut all up like 300. But like my first time getting that was like during the pandemic, man. Like I was just like literally taking care of everything. And I realized it because everything I was eating was just sitting in my stomach, you know what I mean? Obviously. And I could never get one, but I finally ended up getting, you know, from eating the right things and researching.
Yeah, I think ultimately everyone's path is different and unique, and I don't think we're entitled to think anything in life is given. So I mean, oh, my my doggone flag, it's be all right. But yeah, that we're not entitled to anything. That it's a blessing, it's a privilege to get to play the game. When did that shift for you from being so locked in and focused on the NBA, NBA, NBA is my only line of success? Because I think that I had that mindset of like because I didn't know much about ball overseas, I wasn't exposed to it. I didn't know how much people were making over there. When did you shift from like, all right, my priorities have changed because I got a family now and I want to play. Like, I could easily keep pursuing the NBA and go this route, but it's not guaranteed. It's tough. And that our basketball lives are short. We're fortunate if we can play to 35, 36, 37. Like, that's a blessing. So when did that shift for you happen where you're like, I'm going to prioritize my happiness and making as much as I can and doing what I think is best for my family?
You might not remember this, but you probably do. We was in camp together in New Orleans. Remember we was in New
Yep.
Orleans? I was in camp and I don't know if you remember, I had to get my knee drained. When I was in there, I got my knee drained literally the day before we went to Jacksonville and played in Jacksonville. I don't know if you remember all that. So
I don't remember you getting your knee drained, but I remember Jacksonville.
yeah, I had got my because at the time I get back from overseas and my agent was telling me, I think you might have another shot at the NBA, man. You can go to Camp New Orleans, and I was like, all right, cool. When I got into Camp New Orleans, I seen like, all the bigs in there, and I was like, I don't really think I got
It was
a
like
legit
7
chance.
bigs. We had 7
Yeah,
bigs.
like then AD came in like after the what they had the Olympics that year or something like that. AD came a
Yeah.
little bit later, I think. So, and then when I had got my knee drain, I was sitting on that table with the trainer, and Dale Dimps, I think, was the GM, if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken.
Correct.
And I had an offer in the Middle East at the time. This was my first time going to. I had an offer in the Middle East, and it wasn't like the offer I wanted, but at the time I was like, you know what? I think it's time for me to just mentally lock in, because I was going overseas, but I still was thinking like every summer I came back and I tried summer league. Like up until that last stint, I was like, you know what? I've been in training camp. I was in New Orleans from like, I think early September, or something like that. It was training camp. I had got there or something like that, and we was training, running the hills. I was doing the extra stuff, and I felt like I had a shot until I seen what was going on. So after that, and I had got my knee drained. My son was at the crib. I had my second son. I got nervous. And I was like, you know what? It's time for me to just lock in, just take this route, and not even thinking about coming back for training camps, not thinking about coming back for summer leagues, just lock in. And that's what I did, man, from that point. And it just kind of, it helped me. Mentally, it helped me because I was down. Like I was thinking I was gonna get back in the league, but I wasn't supposed to keep thinking that way. You know what I mean? So I would say that turning point.
So what are you currently, well, you're in South Korea right now. How is the situation? You've been there for about 3 or 4 weeks now, something around there. How has that been, just adjusting? This isn't your first time playing there, is it?
My third.
Third year. So how do you like the league so far? Is this the new team?
The team. I love the team, man. The coach is a really good coach. He's very understanding. I knew about this team for obviously the first 2 years I played in the KBL. And so right now he's literally like slowly putting me into things. I maybe play 5 minutes this game, and it's a guy named Sean Long who's the big in front that starts and plays extremely well. And so right now we're in third place. When I got here, I think there was in like 6th or 7th place. So we've been going up. So I love Korea. My family loves it here. They're very family orientated. It's one of the very few places I've played where it's like they just, have you focus on basketball. As far as your meals, they take care of your meals. It's pretty cool, man. Like the training is a little bit tough in the preseason, but I skipped this preseason because I didn't get a deal until they signed me midway through. But I was here last year with a team called LG, and 2 years before that with a team called Orion. So I've been out here. This is my third season being out here.
There had to be love, just them taking care of your food too, man.
Yeah.
Food is huge when you're overseas.
Definitely.
I got two more questions for you, Vern, before I let you go. So what are you currently working on these days outside of basketball?
Business or in general,
In general, everything you want to tell the peeps.
right now, first I would say like my mental, you know what I mean? Like that's the first thing. Like I would say being a father, being a family man, playing this game, a lot of things I've went through in my life, my past, as my childhood, it weighed a lot on my mental state, whether it's anxiety that I've been dealing with at times, you know what I mean? So stuff like that, I would say that's been first and foremost my family, and then figuring out ways to be a better person, a better man of God, better father. Basketball, I know is obviously something we do, but it's not who I am. So
Yeah.
that part, I still been, obviously balancing and being a basketball player and just business, So my thing is first my family, and then my mental, and that's the things I've been working on and trying to get better at each and every day, because that's what really matters. You know what I mean? Obviously, so that I would say family, mental state, and just being a better person, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, the maturity and the Vernon that I knew when back in college to who you are now is just it's all. I mean, I loved you then, but I still love you now, and it's just awesome seeing you evolve, and say that because we know that we were made for more than just being hoopers and being entertainers. That we're going to be. I mean, you are a father, but to be fathers, to be ones that mold and pave the way for other Black men to become more. That being athletes isn't the only path for everybody, and we can show them that just being a good, decent human being is a great start. But the last question I wanted to ask you. So, Vern, you got two sons. What is the key? Through everything that you've experienced, what is the key advice that you would want to tell your sons? Right now, or not right now because they're young, I guess, before, as they're starting their basketball journey, or, right before they're going off to college, through your experiences, what would you leave them with to keep, not only through basketball, but for the rest of their lives?
Just ultimately, like, believing in yourself. First, believing in God, which they do, and they will, but believing in yourself. I think I had years, so many years of not believing in myself, man. I think that was a bad part for me. Like, it was a bad thing on me. So just believing in yourself, even if it's not about basketball, if it's daily routines, if it's just life, like whatever it is, like it's people don't understand, like, not believing in yourself and having, like, all that stuff leads down the wrong path. It can lead to depression, it can lead to anxiety, it can lead to a lot of things, because you always like second guessing yourself and you're not believing what you should be believing. So my thing, that's what I always tell them, man, being leaders and just believing in yourself. Like that's ultimately what you got to do, man. You don't want to go on that path of not always second guessing everything you do, because it's going to be a bad feeling for you. I went through years of that. So believing in yourself is huge.
Yeah, I think for me, the same thing, that I was just struggle with that confidence and the expectations. I felt like the expectations and my confidence didn't line up at the same time. So when I wasn't able to meet those expectations that everyone was filling my head with, they just led to so much frustration on my part, and I didn't know how to articulate that to anybody, like what's going on. So for me, yeah, believing in myself, and then also just like knowing I got real people around me that I can say, like, hey man, like having someone like Coach Donovan, his door was always open, or my great teammates where I could be like, hey guys, I'm struggling with this, or just like help me see what I'm not seeing, so I can, whatever it may be, just to pick me up, to get back on track and who I believe that I was made to be. But anyways, Vern, man, it's been a blessing to have you all the way from South Korea. It's almost it's 11:11 for you right now, PM. You probably about to go to bed.
We off tomorrow, so I might just vibe, watch a little TV or something.
Watch some Martin or something like that, right?
Know it. Laughing and say joke. 15 years later.
Well, man, we can't wait for you to get back to Florida, continue doing what you're doing out there, get the job done, get back home safely, and have fun.
Yes, sir. Thanks, bro. I definitely appreciate you having me on, my brother.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. And that was the episode with my brother, Vernon Macklin. So many awesome insights of growth, of evolving, of becoming a man, of figuring out life and being on his own journey. So thankful that he took the time to share with us all the way from South Korea. Vernon, we love you. We're thankful for you. Go Gator Nation. Everyone, please share, subscribe to the Field of 68 Media Network, as well as this podcast, wherever you're listening to, wherever you can find it. And to all the rest of the world and Gator Nation, stay rowdy.